Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Checked Before. This time, Times Arrow. I'll leave it at that. Times Arrow on It's All Been Checked Before. Want to hit a target? Patreon.com/IABD. Come hit that target. You might just be here for Trekked, but you know what? Check out the rest of the network. Check out IBD Radio Hour. A treasure trove is there, and a treasure trove if you get on Patreon. Very inexpensive. And you get all the benefits. I'm throwing the on benefits now, not just bonus. Speaking of bonus, it's going to come up. I'll let you know next week. This is Times Arrow on It's All Been Trekked Before.
Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Trekked Before. Your regular hosts are here.
This is Steven.
And Keith.
Jimmy-Jerome, you may have heard the return of Snugs last week, and you may be hearing it this week. The cat, because he is not happy with us. Apologies for any meows that get into our audio this week. We're here to talk about Times Arrow. IMDb says part 1. The DVD says part 1. IMDb does not say part 1.
Oh, which is good.
Yeah. First impressions.
My first impression was my last impression from last week. Mm-hmm. The joke being that the synopsis said that they were going to be discovering alien life on Earth, or having been visited by aliens in the 1800s, and students thought that was science fiction. Mm-hmm. Yes. And my response was, is there in fiction no truth?
Which,
nice. Of course,
that was beautiful.
Yes. I almost had something else. But speaking of the synopsis, I put that there too at the beginning. It was just like, I'm glad that, having said they said, they just right to it with like in seconds, like maybe 2 or 3 seconds after the episode started. They're down in the cave, and he's saying, "Here's what we found, evidence of this." So they moved right along.
They did.
It was a fun episode so far. I guess it's. I guess it is done.
Yeah, the episode's done. The story's not done. There is a Times Arrow part 2.
Yeah, the data stuff was fun.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. I'm not sure how I feel about the another time travel aspect. I guess that's what made it funny to an extent, but or actually, it's just Data not caring. Was this part? I have some issues with some of the rest of the episode, whether it's the time travel or people are reacting to it where it left off. But it made sense because I was like, how are they going to wrap this up? Oh, they're not.
I mean, they will next season.
Yeah. So,
which for us will be a month or so from now.
So a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with it, but
6 weeks for you
some
people.
of it not so much. So that's my first impression.
Yeah, I thought it was a fun romp. I did not have as many reservations, but I can't say I'm not saying this is a high quality episode that I love. This is not Iborg or The Inner Light, but it's a fun romp. There are some things that stretch believability for sure. Basically, the entire situation just seems ridiculous. And also, like, let's send our entire main cast, except for Worf, at the end, felt really dumb. Like, no way that's happening. The original series, they would have at least had a couple security officers go with them. But, I'm along for the ride. If this is just a fun romp, I'll let it be a fun romp, and I'm good with that. I haven't seen this one, nor have I seen part 2. Mm-hmm. I was familiar with the head. I knew Data went back in time and talked to Mark Twain and Guinan, but I don't know off the top of my head. It's been so long since I've read anything about this, I don't really know beyond that. So I don't know how it's going to end up. I do know Data will still be alive at the end of it, but other than that...
Same. I don't really remember exactly what I saw. I'm sure I've seen that episode before, but I wasn't really remembering things until they were happening. With Guinan being there with Mark Twain and so on.
So ridiculous.
In what way?
Just all of it. All of it. But the ridiculousness is part of what makes it a fun romp. But yeah, it feels like the writers were stressed out. They were done with the season. Let's just throw crap against the wall. And if it amuses us this late at night when we're drunk, we don't care what that translates to later.
All right. Somewhat ironically, I was going to say that there were some things I liked about at least the effort put behind the technological explanations for how and why they were doing some things.
Okay.
It doesn't translate to some of the motivations going forward, but I liked that there was at least that quality to it. And also, I even put that callbacks are a sign of good episodes in a way, at least to some extent. And I started thinking about that. It was I think it has to do with the fact that these are people who have been following the series to some extent, at least to the point where they can make those kinds of references, and the characters seem a little bit more fleshed out and behaving more like you would expect them to, as opposed to what we saw in The Inner Light, as I was saying. They were there for a very specific thing, just to be like, hey, we need to fire off this line here. We don't really care about these characters in the episode, but we had to put them here. Blah. I don't know them. They're just some people.
I got lots of notes for this one. Let's start talking our way through it, and we'll
Sure.
see what shakes out. We'll see how we feel about it at the end of this conversation, because I feel like this is an episode that I likely might feel differently after we talk about it, but we'll see. We start with learning that aliens were on 19th century Earth, and my first question was, but why did they call Picard back to Earth to investigate Picard and Data? But then Picard asked the same question. So, problem solved.
There's a lot of that happening.
And of course, Data's head. I mean, I knew that was coming. If you didn't know, was it creepy? Was it weird? Was it intriguing? Or was it just dumb?
I'm closer to dumb than the others, but and I also thought the guy buried the lead. Why didn't he just go like, "Oh, come over here. Here's why I called you." He's like, "Well, you know, blah, blah. Oh, but I saved something for you."
Yeah.
Oh, really?
You're right.
Yeah.
That was TV writing, not realism.
Yeah. And I will say, and maybe I just have grown oblivious to it, but I thought the stingers in this episode were the most over the top we've had in a while.
Yeah.
It was what was it?
They're human.
They're human. Dun dun dun. Guy in the paper. Dun dun dun. Go to commercial.
Some great lines, though. Some
There
great
was some
one-liners all throughout. We'll get to. I wrote down a few. We'll get to them. But
So the cave thing, yeah, that is definitely the TV writing of, or this could really be the guy kind of relishing this. This is like, I know who the Enterprise is. This is gonna be so much fun to get here. This is my moment. Look at this, guys.
I know more than Captain Picard.
Yeah. I can't wait to see his reaction when he sees this. But also, yeah, it was effective, but at the same time, it was too big. Right when he did that pause and they were doing that thing, I was like, oh, I figured out this obviously is going to be something that is going to be visually. Or it could have just been like a note that somebody wrote, anything, but is going to tie them directly to the Enterprise, and it's Data's head, and you go, okay, we know what this is supposed to be ominous, but it's too big. You're not going to buy the stakes, so.
Yeah, I mean, there were enough rumors and stuff, like when Picard became Locutus, that maybe he was leaving the series.
Right.
At this point, I don't think anybody thought Brent Spiner was leaving the series. So you're right, the stakes just weren't there.
Yeah, for sure.
Data has no emotion about his own head, which I actually was gratified to get more into Data's emotionlessness, because I feel like we go so long without exploring it, and too many times we forget because he just acts like he has emotion.
Well, and maybe that answers my next question, because they're like, well, how does this not bother you? And I'm like, how long have you guys known this guy? That you're like, I mean, we're still asking these questions, like, why aren't you reacting to this?
But I feel like this was just so extreme. They'd be like, yeah, I know you don't have emotions, but dude, it's your head! You know, like...
I like Keith's question. Maybe that's somebody else's head. There's lore out there.
Well, I said lore, but then they ruled that out on screen again.
Well, that's what I was pointing out, that I loved that again, Picard is with us in the audience going, here, let's just get this out of the way.
The writer's room at this point must have had somebody going, here's what I would say if I was at home watching. Or they just brought in one of us.
I think that's a good point for the episode, though, that it answers those questions.
Yeah, that's fair.
Riker was so offended by Data's lack of reaction. Like, so over the top offended.
Yeah.
That, to me, was... No, I don't get it. I don't get it. I guess they tried to explain it by Riker going, I'm not angry. Yeah, I'm angry. Why am I angry?
Yeah.
And I like that he doesn't know why he's angry, because I don't know why he's angry.
That actually made me laugh.
It was a good exchange, but it also echoes, like, I don't understand why he's angry either. It does not make sense to me. Data basically says, time is fixed, we can't change it. Every time travel debate we've ever had. And I'm sure he's read the original Enterprise logs.
Yes.
What happened with Edith Keeler. That has to alone prove that it's not fixed.
I remember when he was like, well, we can't change time or fate or whatever. I'm like, it happens all the time. What are you talking about?
Yes. So I know Star Trek Voyager touches and Enterprise gets into it that they're like a temporal Cold War that messes with the timeline and stuff. I hate that. I wish they would leave that alone because every the Flash, the superhero stuff does it, and there's never a satisfying way to answer all the questions whenever you delve into it. So just don't touch it.
Right. That's what I said.
I don't know how Enterprise handled it, but I'm not looking forward to that bit. They also mentioned shapeshifters, which we definitely.
Oh.
But they said it was a species they hadn't encountered before. So it's not like the shapeshifter from Star Trek 6.
Okay.
And I assume, based on what we saw, it's nothing like the shapeshifters in Deep Space Nine. It was a different kind of... Because we saw what they looked like in the blue at the end of the episode, and then they looked human. They were walking around Earth.
Mm-hmm.
So... But I did enjoy the microbe clue and having to go to the planet, and that. I liked that aspect of it.
On that note, actually, what I put here? It's another thing where I was starting to kind of try to outpace them a little bit and going, okay, of course they're going to do that. Of course they're going to drop this clue, and of course his first reaction is going to be, let's go right to that one place that this unique thing is, and it's going to inevitably lead them down that path. That he knows that once he even starts getting close enough to it, he starts realizing, maybe I shouldn't send Data down to do this because I'm going to try to avoid having this happen.
Geordi's super bothered by his best friend.
Yes.
That one makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But then Data's take on it about how he's going to lose all his friends, and it's comforting to know that there's an end for him. I thought that was a very interesting observation.
It was, and then he contradicts it kind of because he kind of goes back to essentially it's like, well, I'm glad I'm going to die, but I don't care. And I wasn't. He's like, well, I'm glad I'm going to die, but he's like, it wouldn't bother me to live forever and lose friends over and over again.
So that speech that he gives about death there to Geordi ties very much into the end of Data's arc in the first season of Star Trek Picard. Okay. So that will come full circle. We will get more ruminations on that after some more experiences. But I appreciate the consistency in the character. And clearly some writers of Star Trek Picard locked onto that too, that aspect. And we're like, let's explore this more. What does it mean?
And I know, this might be controversial, but we've talked about being atheists and agnostics on this podcast before. But I mean, a lot of people, because Data talks about having some certainty, and, some people think that's why Christians are the way they are, because they're like, well, I know what's happening when I die. I don't know if I'm going to heaven or hell, but I know it's one of those. I know there's certainty. So that's why they're like, I can live however I want to live. Not in a bad way, just I can live with peace knowing, and a lot of other people just live with certainty, like, I know I'm not going to those places, I can live with that certainty too. Me, I don't want to die. But but yeah, I thought
we'll see if you feel differently in 20 years.
Yeah, I thought that part of it was exactly.
Oh no!
I thought after we've done 20 more.
This will be the end of Steven's arc on Atomic Trek before. We'll bring it back around as you're dying of old age, and we're still doing this. We'll talk about this conversation again.
But yeah,
how does it feel to not live through the end of this podcast?
Oh.
If they keep making it the way they are, none of us will live through the end of this podcast. Somebody else will have to finish it. It's all been tricked before the next generation. We bring in 3 kids. Sorry.
Oh wow.
Days of Future Past.
Yep.
The First Class, whatever. I've obviously watched too many X-Men movies, but yeah, I like when they bring up the Superman issue with Data.
Yeah.
All of his friends will die.
Well, as far as him contradicting himself, he was essentially saying that knowing that there's an end to life gives it some more value, but at the same time, if it's cut shorter than you expected it would have been, it feels like you wouldn't be able to appreciate the end coming as much as you would if you were able to experience that immortality for a while.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of it from a logical standpoint. Like, logically, from a Spock standpoint, logically, he knows one day he will die.
Sure.
But I don't know how much that affects what he does. But with Data, I would think, no, then again, maybe he doesn't care. Because part of me thinks, well, he would want to, why not live forever and keep improving? I mean, yes. I guess we're getting to what's the purpose of Data.
Yeah.
What is his purpose? I know what it is for the crew. What is it for him?
His purpose is always, it's the Pinocchio. It's to be more human. He's
Okay.
always striven to be more human.
All right.
And we will explore those in the films and in Star Trek Picard in a bigger way.
In which case, I guess he is like, well, I hope I do die. Because that's what humans do.
Yeah, he did say that, but I mean, motivations. You would almost think that would have to require some sort of emotion to want something like that.
Right.
Unless that's part of his programming, because he was supposed to emulate humans for
Right.
the village or whatever. But
Yeah. Or maybe he just, I mean, he doesn't have emotion, but you'd still feel like an outsider, whether there's emotion attached to it or not. That everybody else is like this and I'm like this.
maybe.
And once you strive to be more like that, I
And
don't
he
know.
obviously continues to gather more information because that's what he does with everything, every episode when he's solving a problem or whatever.
But there's the problem with the way that he's written, or the way that a human being or a series of human beings are able to write something like that, that complex, as they keep coming back to expressing it as some sort of want or desire when that shouldn't be a motivating factor for him.
It's kind of like when in TOS and I guess in the movies too, when they kind of forget, we all remember Spock's half human, and then they just make him super ultra logical for an episode. Yeah, like Galileo 7 is the worst early example, but later there are examples where.
But see, all that makes sense to me because he was made fun of for his human side, so he suppresses it. So he's more logical than most Vulcans.
Sure.
Until after his death, and then he's just like, screw it. I'm tired of caring what other people think. I died and came back. I'm just going to be me. And I do feel like it's a different Spock after Star Trek 3.
That's a fair assessment. Yeah.
I like that Spock better, honestly.
Yeah.
Or it's an imposter.
Well, if he dies and comes back to life, is he really the same person?
Nope.
Just like every time they beam down to a planet or beam up from a planet, that person has been murdered, a new person is born. Troy talks about Data talking about loss, or essentially, well, I can't say I missed them, but I got used to
mental pathways become accustomed.
Is that essentially how he described missing Yar?
Yeah.
Which I thought
nice callback.
Which is one of my favorite moments, and I would say it's one of my favorite moments in the series.
Yeah, and on Data coming back about that abrupt end, and then Riker with Troy. First of all, Riker's like instinct to lie to Data, and Troy's like, "No, dude, just tell the truth. You can't handle the truth." Yes, he can.
As much as I love Troy and Riker as a romantic, they're comedic.
Yes,
great, so good.
You can see they're not yet on the same page.
Exactly, it's great.
So apparently everything about Data's head does not get classified because Geordi just tells Guinan.
Right.
And then she gets a smile, which we later realize means, oh, now is when they come back and meet me.
Yeah, so I put there that they have a tendency to do this quite a bit for her. Like they really play up the mysteriousness, and they made it seem like, oh, this is some kind of extrasensory perception that she has over time or something, and it ends up being something very I don't want to say ordinary, but like
your basic time travel.
Yes, a rational explanation that goes beyond her being like, oh, I can perceive all these different timelines. It's just she just happened to be there.
But she does have feelings towards when the timeline gets changed and stuff. We've seen that.
Okay, something, yes, but I mean, I feel like they tease us with the idea of understanding exactly what that is more often than is the case.
Okay. So they go on the away mission. Data gets left behind, of course. I like that whole thing about Data's like, there's no rational reason, which is incorrect. There is definitely a rational reason. But Picard saying, well, I'm going to be irrational then, is wonderful. And I like the Picard saying, well, we're going to try to cheat fate, dude.
Right.
Like, we're not just going to let it happen.
Right.
Okay, well, here's the other thing about that. And they're going to get around that eventually, just... When you get these kinds of storylines where somebody has information, oh, you're going to die, this bad thing's going to happen, whatever, it always comes down to, eventually people think to write this, we can't make decisions based on that anyway. Because this could be the thing that is going to make us do that thing anyway if we try to...
That was another episode of Next Generation that we've seen before.
I was going to say, it's the final destination problem. Doesn't matter what you do, it's going to get you.
Well...
Troy senses lots of terrified humans, and she says they're out of phase, and my first thought is, why don't you just try the thing that worked on Geordi and Roe to get them back in phase?
Didn't we just do this?
It's like 3 episodes ago.
That wasn't time, though.
No, but Picard lets Data go. So when they're like, we need this device, we don't have this device. I have it in my head. It's like, okay, but there isn't another one anywhere in the universe.
Right.
Like, you're trying to be careful with them. Say, this can wait an hour or a couple of days while we go get one.
Right.
There we are. Yeah.
Right?
I eventually put that note back up there, inserting it. Just a lot of the problems, or a lot of the inevitability of that track that they were on was based on them reading urgency into the situation, or injecting more urgency than was probably needed.
But
in a lot of things.
that head has been buried for 500 years. Where's the urgency?
Right.
Right.
Or these people being out of phase in this cave doing whatever. How much time? I mean, how do they know what kind of danger is even happening? Is it that important for them to be like, every second counts, let's go right now? Or is it just like,
And
George, well, yeah.
I guess to that point, if somebody is able to travel back in time, what's to say Data doesn't die 10,000 years from now? And they take.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
He said, this could be centuries before I go back.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying they did not establish the urgency.
Yeah.
Or that's even a different variation he was saying just then, is somebody could have even just died for a different reason other than going back in time, is somebody could have just planted it there.
Yeah.
Q could have gone back and put it there just for fun.
It could be an alternate universe Data that came from a different reality.
Yep.
It could be a head that Data is based on.
That occurred to
Did they
you,
look
too.
inside?
Yeah.
They did.
Okay.
Because Data had it open.
Yeah.
He knows how long it's been buried, but isn't there any way to date how old the components are to figure out how old he was when he went back?
Yeah. And
He should be able to figure out, like, okay, it's actually about today's when I should be going back, because this is how old the head is.
yeah. Well, I guess
Or timestamp.
I know he doesn't age or isn't supposed to age or whatever, but wouldn't I know there would be some degradation, wouldn't there, at some point? Which I guess he wasn't buried then. He would have been buried before then. Oh no, that's right. He was buried. Would there? I guess there was some degradation.
Yeah.
But I feel like there should be more. But maybe
It depends on
500 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's built pretty sturdily.
That fair.
When he's out of phase and he's describing the scene, but we don't see it,
Yeah.
I was like, that's an interesting choice to do that. We get the reaction shots.
Yeah.
And then it kind of ruins it later because we do get to see it.
Right.
So-
That's what I thought, because I thought, and I've been on this bandwagon for a while lately. I know it's a Seinfeld thing, and by now this movie's in the past was Oscar already Drive My Car. There's a lot of telling and not showing, and lots of times telling and not showing is more compelling, because if you show it, it's like, oh, that's okay, but if telling it is a lot more interesting. For example, to go to the Seinfeld example, Kramer talking about being on the bus, and he takes over driving the bus, and he's fighting off the robber or whatever. But and in this instance, I felt the same way, Jimmy. I was like, oh, this is compelling. Not anymore.
Well, I think part of it was the quality of what they ended up showing was not as good as what you pictured in your head.
And that's the other thing I think of is like
These scary things they're eating on their foreheads, then we just see these blue hazy shapes.
yeah,
We're like,
yeah.
no.
Like, and again, I think that's where telling not showing comes in, where it can be two things. One, we don't have the money to show this thing,
Sure.
or two, it's just not going to be the same. Telling it's a better story than showing it.
I kind of disagree to the extent that when I agree with the basis of the premise there. Yes, I thought that was compelling. This is part of the technological thing I was talking about. The way that they made the effort of explaining this is why Data has to do this in this way.
Mm-hmm.
This sets up a device so that he has to communicate only by sound here, and little things like that. And it made for a fun way to go through that.
Yeah.
I don't think that was taken away from by eventually revealing something to us. But I mean, and it could have certainly been for budget reasons because they couldn't show the way that
Right.
Data was seeing it like they wanted to.
Right.
So when we actually get to see
Right.
some other vague thing, it's still, I still think the moment stood.
So in terms of the scientific stuff, how come the device came back in phase without Data?
I wasn't paying close enough attention.
Yeah.
That made no sense to me, because if he went through the thing, he either took the device with him or he left it there. Either way, it should go back into regular phase. And it was like slightly smoking. And that's when the aliens picked it up and was like, what's this? And then accidentally turned the knob back to normal phase, but then the alien would come with it. Whoever turned the knob had to come with it.
Maybe he had to like hold it down with his thumb or something, and it's like a dead man switch or something. He dropped it. But wait,
I would like to if the device and his shoes came back.
His com badge just fell.
Yeah.
but
All his clothes just fell.
Yeah, it's algae based. It's not. You can't fade.
that's something I wish I had been paying close enough attention to understand exactly what his internal device was allowing him to do with this other external thing that was necessary, that couldn't have been just tweaked until it happened by anybody else? I mean, is it because he can turn it slower? I mean, isn't it him just like sensing something and doing it? I think
it was like linked into the neuro something in his brain.
That makes more sense, I guess. But yeah,
because then later they had to like build all this new equipment to make up for not having his brain, but they didn't have to use the same device again.
Huh.
I think it was like a remote control for inside his brain. But then why did he drop the remote control?
Right.
I don't know.
Well, to jump ahead a bit, since this is going to relate to that anyway, why couldn't Geordi have tried to do that first?
Yeah.
You know, eventually they say, well, we didn't have any other choice, but maybe I can try to do it. If he had just gone back to the ship with Data's help, they could have tried to duplicate whatever it was that was, you know, but...
Absolutely. So Data goes back in time, and then he says he got his ear cut in the rice picker. No, he says he's a French... Somebody else calls him a Frenchman.
Yeah, I thought the same
I guess
thing.
because he's pale.
Yep.
Yeah.
Same thing, rice picker, I kept thinking in my head.
And he goes with it, and it
And I
also
do
made me think of...
I think there should have been bigger reactions, though.
Yes. Yeah. Like, either negatively or positively.
Like, why is your skin so white?
Oh, to that.
Why
yeah,
are your
that's-
eyes looking like that?
Yeah.
What is the outfit you're wearing?
Yeah, I don't... Unless, I mean, like if it
They
was...
think he's wearing PJs. What?
Yeah, that was my...
I did actually appreciate that.
It was... I thought comedically it worked.
Yes.
It was just kind of fun the way that people were underreacting to a lot of things that were going on there.
Again, it's just like when the double jump on you. It was similar. It's San Francisco again.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the bellhop in particular, it was funny, but at the same time, it didn't make sense to me that you're wearing a bellhop uniform that doesn't look that much different from what he's wearing. Why would you think that's just some other kind of uniform?
Right. That's fair.
You know who the bellhop was? I didn't realize this until I looked at IMDb. I'm not talking about the actor. I'm talking about the character, the bellhop.
Oh.
The bellhop is Jack London.
I don't remember if that is...
The writer of The Call of the Wild.
Oh, you mean the actual...
Yeah. So the actor is Michael Aaron.
Yeah.
Why they chose to... I guess Jack London had a bunch of odd jobs before he went to Alaska.
Oh,
and that'll like pay off more in the second part.
Okay.
But...
I think I would have... Yeah.
So this actor only has 8 credits. I can say he played a bellhop in Hardball, an episode of Hardball, a television series, was his first credit. Then he did a couple other guest spots, China Beach, and then he plays Jack London in both parts of this.
Okay.
And then he is in Star Wars Rebel Assault 2, the Hidden Empire video game in the 90s as Ensign Till. But yeah, he doesn't even have a picture on IMDb. He does not have many credits at all. I didn't know that we need that extra layer that he's Jack London. Is that just supposed to be...
Another Mark Twain.
I mean, we got Mark Twain.
Why
It's
did it have to
very
be him? Why did it have to be all kinds of things?
Even Guinan's a literary reception.
Yeah.
The other thing that made me laugh about the Frenchman was, as some of you may recall, our special episode of Dude, Where's My Car? Where he played the Frenchman, where Brent Spiner played the Frenchman in that.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I wonder if they took that from this.
That's what it makes me think now.
Speaking of Frenchmen, Data doesn't have any money, so he goes to play poker, where we meet Frederick LaRocque, played by Mark Alamo, who we recently saw in another episode of Next Generation where he played the Cardassian with the facial hair.
Okay.
Do you remember what that was? The Neutral Zone? No, The Wounded. So he's been in 4 episodes of Next Gen, this actor, in 4 different parts. This is the 4th one.
Oh, nice.
Lonely Among Us, The Neutral Zone, The Wounded, and then this. He will next be in 35 episodes of Deep Space Nine as a Cardassian. So that's the next time we'll see him in Star Trek. He's not in part 2. So the next time we'll see him is when he shows up as a Cardassian in the DS9 pilot.
One of the callback lines that made me laugh hardest was when the bellhop mentions poker and it's like, poker? And everything that is conveyed in that is like, he's figured out how he's going to get money, and we know he's good at poker.
We know he can cheat if he wants to.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're not going to notice.
Nope.
You know he's cheating here.
Exactly.
I love that it's...
But would they be cheating too? They were all card cheats.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So he has to cheat better than the cheaters.
Yeah. I mean, it's also possible that they were just very good. I mean, it's possible to pick up that type of skill to
what is
sharp,
card sharps or sharps?
Whichever the actual term is. No, seriously, there's a skill involved that you could, if somebody's not good,
Right.
I mean, Data must be cheating here and not cheating on the Enterprise, because if he beats all these card sharks easily here and he doesn't win every time in the Enterprise,
And he had to do his sport.
you can't tell me Riker and them are all better than these card sharks.
I thought he was going to win just enough money, but he won a ton of money, which means he must have done the classic. Oh, he lost a little, and then he roped him in, and then he bet more, and went, or bet right, I guess.
Yeah.
And then it seems
never
like
bet
he
right
keeps
when I play
getting
poker.
more money as the episode goes on, so he must go back down there.
I
Maybe.
guess so, yeah.
I mean, the whole thing
Reinvested.
of like winning all the money and then building the machine, I'm like, he's doing a better Spock. Like
Well,
he's more
I wrote down,
City on the Edge of Forever.
it's another City of Edge Forever thing, because
But he's doing it better.
City on the Edge of Forever, Spock essentially gives a shopping list.
Yeah.
He's like, I need this, 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 and this, and Kirk's like, oh, I got this, and this, and this, and this. Oh, and food. So that was definitely.
But he doesn't have a Kirk. He's got Jack London.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seems like he took the Spock concept. Maybe he remembers it.
totally.
He read it.
I mean,
And then improved upon it.
even that device looks like the device Spock comes up
A
with.
little bit. I mean, it's a little different, but yeah, I
It's
saw the
got
similarities too. All the open
wire
stuff,
and
yeah. I mean, that had to be a purposeful callback.
I
I almost
think
wonder
so,
why
too.
they didn't just use the Guardian of Forever, why they invented this whole
That's
other
a-
thing,
Hmm.
if they were going to do that.
Of course, I'm very protective of the Guardian, but yeah,
I know.
yeah, you're right.
Data sells his comm badge for $3 at the beginning of the poker game, which is a lot of money, but
It
are
is.
you allowed to sell Starfleet property?
I think under the circumstances, but what I thought it was more like a marker or a loan or something, like he was going to get
Right.
back.
That's what I. That's what
thought.
it seemed like, but well, that would have made sense. He said, "I'll give you $3 for it." Data says accepted, and they sell it, and then later he doesn't have the comm badge back.
Okay, so
So Frederick LaRoe kept it,
Wow. Well,
which I wonder if that. I guess that won't pay off in part 2 because Frederick LaRoe's not in part 2.
no,
But
you can still get it back anyway.
I did like he won the hat and the vest though. He didn't. He didn't worry about getting the comm badge back, but he'll
yeah,
take
that was my
feather
one
hat.
fashion. Fashion was I loved his vest over his uniform.
Yeah, I wanted to say about that before. Just the comedic aspect of that was really good too. He's, poker. We go down there. We meet the characters. We think, okay, maybe we're going to get a little demonstration of something, but it wasn't necessary. They knew.
No.
They knew we knew. It was just like a little
Right.
flip. They just
Yes.
got the hat, got
Uh-huh.
everything best, and it's just a little flip.
That's efficiency. That's
Yeah.
economic. Do you think he won the vest in the game and then
Yeah.
in the game? So
Yeah.
the guy, he was probably like, "How about you give me that the communicator?" And the guy's like, "No, how about I give you the vest and hat? As long as
Yeah.
he could convince Data that it was worth something." He's like,
Yeah.
"All right."
Data doesn't care at that.
Well, that was.
Yeah.
I think those were from different characters. It looked like.
Maybe you're
like
right.
the Indians.
The other
hat.
guys, yeah.
And-
Joe
that's right.
Fallinghawk is the name credited on IMDb for the Native American poker player. I don't know if you noticed, besides him, but like on the street and in Guinan's little party, and this is my fashion note, there were so many stereotypes of like a Chinese person and an
Yes.
Indian person and an Austrian person in the like most stereotypical ridiculous costumes that they just pulled out of storage on the lot. It was a bit racist.
I mean, you don't think that would represent the racist
It was
times
definitely-
of the
That's
1800s? I mean,
true,
it's like,
too.
I mean, I feel like
that's what
if you have a character that fits the stereotype, perhaps, but there were so many different characters fitting so many different stereotypes. To me, it felt way too
maybe.
way too fake. And then the other fashion we have is the archaeologist himself in a plain jumpsuit that could have been in the original series.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. They call him a artificial life form.
Mhm.
I'm like, Alpha is alien life form. Let's not muddy the waters here.
That'd be a great crossover if you met Alf.
Alf was around. Yeah, Alf was late 80s. So yeah,
Yeah.
Alf was around.
But this is the
This is later.
1880s, not the
Yeah, I was about to
1980s.
say. Keep me to it.
Alf was my favorite 1970s character. That's a Universe Shooter reference, never mind.
Oh, right, yeah. That's-
So the whole sequence with Jack London wanting the tip and offering to buy him a prostitute
That was
and
funny.
everything, giving the large wad of cash. Oh, that was...
a couple of those were kind of stock gags and
Yeah.
responses, but it just played so well for some reason. I don't know.
So at this point, we go back to the alley, and the poor 49er. We see the snake, which I'm like immediately, oh, there's the snake he's looking for.
yeah.
But the 49er, who's just credited as Beggar, played by Jack Murdoch, he's got 53 credits. Looks like he died in 2001, but he stopped acting before that. He was episode of Home Improvement, episode of Roseanne, a couple episodes of Picket Fences. This is his only Trek credit, no Seinfeld. He looked like somebody familiar, but I'm looking at his credits, and he was in Rain Man. I don't know if that maybe is where I'm thinking of him from. Altered States, Blue Thunder.
He looked familiar.
He
too.
looked very familiar to me.
But he doesn't have that many credits, so I don't know.
I was wondering about your opinions of his performance.
Over the top, ridiculous, like every other stereotype in the episode.
Okay, that's why I wasn't. It felt like
It fit what they were doing.
Yeah.
I mean, it felt he was swinging for the fences, and it felt like authentic isn't the right word, but committed. Like something. I felt like something positive, but also something at the same time. I couldn't really put my.
When he was muttering, what was he muttering about, or was it the idea he was just drunkenly muttering?
At the end.
Before they zapped him.
Something about I was a 49 or 40. It felt like he was like some kind of synthoid or something was having a meltdown there, and I wonder if that was supposed to be the point or if something had been. I don't know. It did seem like something more than him just being drunk there. Like it was almost like he was caught in some kind of artificial loop when he was interacting with Data. That whole thing. I mean.
Yeah, I don't know. So we go back to the Enterprise, which my first reaction was, just like last week, they shouldn't go back. But I guess they had to go back because they're tying in this other stuff.
Yeah.
Riker's still angry, like yelling at Picard, we can't leave him. And I'm like, dude, you need a counseling session. I don't know what your problem is, but you are so angry this week. Guinan is being a chemist making that concoction, which was a cool bit of stage work to make the scene interesting.
Right.
And I liked how I liked your explanation. I liked how it went invisible at the end, the vapor, all that. But again, like you said, she's too enigmatic. Like, just tell Picard. I mean, she basically says, you have to go back in time so I can meet you. But you should just say, yeah, you, Beverly, Geordi, Riker, you'll all go down together. Come back and see me. I'll see you soon.
Yeah.
But that whole mysterious, like, do you remember when the first time you met me? No, you don't. But we will never meet if you don't go back on that away mission. I'm not going to tell you why. You could argue that she doesn't want to mess with the timeline and she's just supposed to give guidance, but it still seemed. Yeah. I mean, I would think Picard would push more, but he's like, you never care about away missions. Why are you talking to me right now?
Are we to understand that she prepared this chemistry thing as a demonstration just to make her point? Like she was waiting for this to happen, so it's like, see what I mean? You know, like the fencing. So just a little bit. I mean, how long did she plan to do that?
She literally comes up with a hobby just to prove her point. It's a whole production.
Well, had she been working on that for months just in case it was going to be useful for something?
Okay.
Now, Jack London's whole thing about that's America is just like, okay, dude.
Yeah.
It's, again, overblown stereotypes. And clearly, if that ever was the American dream, it's gone.
It rings even more hollow now, yeah. 30 years later, like,
Then we see Whoopi in the paper, as you pointed out, quite the stinger. And there's a huge entrance for Mark Twain. Like, they really built this episode around. We got this actor, Jerry Hardin. He's a great Mark Twain. Let's do it. Because the whole way they introduced him was so huge. Jerry Hardin, who's best known for Big Trouble in Little China, The Firm, The X-Files, Cujo, 167
He
credits.
was Deep Throat on X-Files. And my favorite fact about him is his daughter is Melora Hardin.
Oh, really?
A lot of folks will know from The Office.
So this actor had already appeared in the episode When the Bow Breaks, like 4 years ago.
Oh, wow.
I don't remember him at all as Radu. But yeah, he'll be in part 2 as well, obviously. And he'll do an episode of Voyager as a different character, not Samuel Clemens.
I will say, I wrote this down wrong. I had most annoying Mark Twain, but it was Samuel Clemens. There's probably still a one-man show of somebody playing Mark Twain. I know James Whitmore used to do it all the time. And I enjoyed Mark Twain's Samuel Clemens' literature, but I did not enjoy him in this episode at all.
No?
I just wanted him to stop talking.
No. By the time he showed up, I was like, it fits the tone of what they're going for.
It is pure cheese, but it was too much for me. If there can be a thing that's too much cheese.
Well, I mean, that makes me wonder. Have you seen other people do shows like this, as you were saying?
I've seen like clips or whatever.
Hal Holbrook.
Hal Holbrook was another one that did it. Yeah, it was a big deal back in the day.
What?
Somebody's probably still doing it.
I'm wondering where they got the voice from exactly. I'm wondering how accurate that would have been.
That's a good question.
He just watched videos of the actual Mark
Exactly. So, I mean, how do people know? How were they passing down what his voice would sound like?
Good question.
Data crashes Guinan's literary party, and his misunderstanding that she's not from the future. It's like, really? Is that who you think they sent back to rescue you? Was Guinan? and she went through the portal at a different time, like Kirk and Spock did to McCoy.
Yeah.
The mentioning of the starship, though, we know she's not from Earth. So mentioning a starship and looking weird, I get why that got her attention. Like, even if she doesn't know him, we're talking about something these people don't need to hear. Let's go.
Yeah.
I liked that.
We got the first, like, the real scoop where she says, if Father sent you to bring me back, I'm not done listening. Before Data cuts her off. It's almost missed, but I was like, this is the race of listeners, as we just talked about in a recent episode. And why she's on Earth listening, I'm not sure. But this is actually before the Borg destroyed her homeworld, because we will see her in one of the films in the immediate aftermath of the Borg destroying her homeworld.
Okay.
That was just so frustrating, though. When they do things like that.
Because I don't think we'll ever get further than that, and I want to know more.
Yeah. So my favorite bit though was during their sidebar, and Data rattles off the thing. I'm from the future. Da, da, da. She just and and just not like the future really or
well no because she is an alien
but time travel. It was just
I think she's
like.
I mean, she's sensitive to alternate realities and timelines. I assume she knows about time travel and stuff. And why would she not believe him?
Right.
I mean, especially because he didn't try to be like, okay, I know all these things about you, but he definitely had familiarity with her.
Yeah.
So then we go back to the 24th century, and Picard's like, I'm coming, shut up you all, Worf, go away. Which they shouldn't even be talking about. Worf didn't get his head caught in the rice picker, he would be looking weird.
Right.
So that makes sense, and also, like, poor Michael Dorn has to sit out the part two, I guess.
But yeah, I
there must be some reason that.
But why the rest of the main cast?
Yes.
Why not security officers? Why not scientists? Why not your historian, Marla McGivers or whatever?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense that all the rest of the senior staff are just.
I will say that for TOS, they sent down support, even if.
And they always died.
Yeah.
Now we know nobody's going to die because they didn't send anybody expendable.
They either died, or a Greek god fell in love with them, or a tyrant from the 90s Earth they married them. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. So then we saw the blue things, which apparently were soul eaters. They didn't call them that, but they were soul eaters, right?
Sure. Yeah.
That's what they were doing?
Maybe.
Eating souls?
Something.
To be continued.
Dun, dun, dun.
I feel like they didn't need to necessarily make this a two-parter. If you got rid of the complexity of the soul-eating aliens and just, here's Data's head, this is what happened, go back and stop it.
And we'll see what happens in part 2 or whatever,
Sure.
I guess, but I felt the same way because I was like, well, how are they going to resolve this? And I was like, oh, they're not. But it still already felt like, maybe I'm contradicting myself now because it felt like, I feel like not enough has happened.
All they need to do is stop the soul eaters.
Right.
Which should be, instead of doing the Enterprise scenes, they could have had a scene where Data found the soul eaters and stopped them. He already built a device that does something, I assume stops them.
But,
it just, again, felt like we're at the end of the season. We feel compelled to give you a cliffhanger. We're tired and we're half-baked.
Even them going to the portal and then closing or whatever, it gets back to the whole thing for the whole episode, like, okay, well, I'm not worried.
Yeah.
There's no urgency here.
No, and there's no stakes when you don't send anybody expendable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. It was just funny to me the scene where they just had people doing business, as Stephen would say, in the cave. So you have Beverly just kind of scanning something over here, and Deanna's sort of sensing the boundary. It's like, well, I have to be here to put this pylon up over here, and and it's again the whole main cast for some reason.
And there is Troy. We talk about this all the time. She's like the ship sensor. Sometimes she's like, I'm not getting anything. Another time, like this one, it's like I'm seeing into the future, and another time into a different phase, and I'm seeing it very clearly. Well, what about this? Oh, you know what? I just lost it. I just lost the signal. I had it, and then I lost it. Sorry. Okay, thanks a lot.
I'll go back to the ship now.
Well, the episode was written by story by Joe Manosky, who was an executive story editor we've talked about before. He did write Darmok. He wrote Hero Worship. He wrote story by part 2 of this episode.
Okay.
And then teleplay was him and Michael Piller, who was, running things at the time. So they put their big guns on it, so it's got to be Burnout.
I was going to say, this goes through your theory, actually. It's like, we don't have a script.
26 episodes.
Yeah.
26 episodes a year is a lot.
That is...
I think Joe Menosky had an idea of, let's do time travel with Mark Twain. Whoopi Goldberg's available. Great, let's toss her in. And that's all I got. Yeah. Episode directed by Les Landau, one of our regulars.
The Worf thing, it struck me as a little bit contrived in the sense that I'm sure the writers were thinking, well, he's going to raise too many eyebrows going back in the past, so let's just avoid that by sending him back to the ship.
We need more time with Mark Twain. We don't need to come up with an explanation.
That too.
Everybody's going to love Mark Twain. We got to give him all the screen time.
We got to talk about the frogs of Calaveras County, or whatever the name of that is.
I kind of zoned out during his speech. I don't really remember what he was talking about.
It was the corn poem, for lack of a better term, kind of folksy kind of, well, where I come from, but it's kind of weird and it's kind of wisdomy, but what?
I did enjoy his last bit there where he's like, eavesdropping is not what a gentleman does, but the deed's done.
Now that's funny. That part I enjoyed.
So now he's along for the ride, obviously.
Actually, I like the bit about the diamond, that whole thing.
I thought, is he one of the aliens?
No, I don't think. Okay. I don't know, but
we'll find out. But yeah, just
in a month or two.
The banter there about the essentially saying that the Guinan is overestimating the worth of a human if she's compared to diamond. It's like, a hypothetical person isn't me. What else? I thought one of my first theories was that maybe those people who are out of phase were in a prison of some sort, which perhaps they are.
Sort of. Their souls are until they get eaten.
Yeah, whatever's happening there. They had to find that newspaper under the wagon wheel. Common device for people to go, oh, this is what day it actually is, but this is a random newspaper that is blowing down the street. It could have been from anywhere at any time prior to that, so it could have been a year or two, month from a different city.
Yeah, I didn't have time to look at the date. I did see it was a San Francisco newspaper, though, so it established.
1893.
Okay.
My alternate episode was they go back a couple hundred more years, and Shakespeare is the center of the episode instead of Mark Twain. That was my alternate episode.
My alternate episode was it was H.G. Wells.
Okay,
because then you could build the time machine in and make that part of it.
Yeah.
Instead of Mark Twain and Jack London.
Like the movie Time After Time, one of my favorite 70s.
I mean, H.G. Wells is kind of an obvious on the go-to on the nose, but,
Still.
My alternate would be that if we don't actually see this happen in the part 2, which is probably likely, they're going to say something that gives Samuel Clemens the idea for Mark Twain.
You don't think he had the name Mark Twain before 1893? I think by this point he's written Huck Finn, Tom Sawyer. I don't know. I really don't know.
I was going to say that they go back and they meet Isaac Asimov, and I was like, no, he was still alive, so they wouldn't have... Well, no, they would still be going back in time. I guess they could have gone back to 1992.
Huck Sawyer was written in 1884.
Oh, wow.
Tom Sawyer was written in 1876, so he was already known as Mark Twain.
I thought Tom Sawyer was like in the 70s.
1870s. Let's get to our rankings. Who was your annoyance this week? I think you already said.
Mine was already, Samuel Clemens.
So many choices.
Not to be confused with Sam Clemens.
Mine's Riker for the second week in a row because of his anger issue. I don't understand his anger issue.
Fair.
I tempted to be Picard because it's like, why are you letting all your senior officers go through the portal? And it doesn't even say, like, somebody stayed behind to tell the ship, we're just all going.
Yeah. Maybe he left instructions to somebody before he left. Oh, Worf is going up. I guess he would know.
Right, so. That's right.
Guinan will tell him. Guinan, you have the bridge. What? The bartender. That's the alternate episode.
That's the one, yeah.
The bartender has the bridge.
I'm gonna go with present. I guess present day Guinan on the ship.
24th century Guinan.
Yes, there you go. Thank you. Being overly enigmatic, as we were saying.
That's fair. Who are we gonna have a drink with?
The homeless guy.
The 49er? He's just kind of this beggar here, but I'm putting the 49er.
If I give him a drink, I'm going to buy him.
You don't know he was homeless.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know.
But he said that he was penniless and...
You didn't say homeless.
Yeah, you're right.
He implied it.
Yeah. Keith, who are you drinking with?
That is tempting. We saw that We saw that the 49er had the shakes and everything too, so it's like,
So you want to buy him a drink?
well, I might just be there to see what happens once he gets. Maybe he has some other insights once he's.
I mean, he was
not
asking
quite-
for
not
the
quite
whiskey.
sober. But probably somebody in that room, the literary event room.
Yeah, I'm going to cheat and pick two. I'm going to the literary event, and I'm sitting down between Guinan and Samuel Clemens. Because I always choose Guinan, because I love Guinan. And I'm sorry, as annoying as you found them, I'm still
I was
sitting
going to
with
say,
Samuel
you're sitting
Clemens.
between the two most annoying people in the episode.
That is very strange, isn't it?
That is interesting.
But it's,
Outside of this episode, it would be a treat.
I was entertained by what was happening there, at least, even though he was annoying in certain ways.
I would want to get a drink with Hal Holbrook as Mark Twain as Samuel Clemens.
Maybe the real Samuel
Mark
Clemens,
Twain is
though.
Samuel Clemens.
Okay, ranking the episode, starting at the top, right? No, I'm kidding.
No, this is. I'm sure this is going to sound awful, but I mean, as it was starting, I was thinking, I'm already more interested in this than I was in the Inner Light.
Wow.
Until I know.
You're off the podcast. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. We need differing viewpoints, but whoa, Keith.
Until they got to a certain point.
I don't understand where you're coming from, but we want differing viewpoints.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm gonna say let's start with the writers of their episode this season, Darmok. Which Darmok has ended up.
How is this that in this same
Yeah.
season? It feels like
Darmok, which is again is regarded as like a great episode, is number 13 of the season right now.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, wow.
We did not.
put it
We
in
were
its place.
not impressed with it when we
I
watched
know
it.
I wasn't.
The concept was good. The execution.
Okay. That's so weird because now I'm listening. That my reaction is, oh my god, how could we put it that low? Now, looking back, now everything's faded. But yes, when it was fresh, I'm realizing, it was another one where the expectations were just touted way too high. I was thinking about how I would defend my opinion about some of these things, but I figured that can wait till we get to the wrap up for the season.
Okay.
So criteria.
Sure.
So you think this goes above Darmok? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Yeah, I don't think it does either. Sorry, Keith.
I'm actually torn. So
Yeah.
I'm not.
I'm slightly torn, but I'm going below.
Yeah.
Below that is the Masterpiece Society.
All right, we're
collecting.
They're
They're collecting data.
No, that was.
they're the.
You're thinking of
everyone
the most toys.
Everyone has a role in the society. And,
That.
And Troy falls in love and disrupts it.
yeah, that's.
I want to put this above
It's weird,
the
but
Masterpiece Society.
You
yeah,
are
Yeah, I want to put this
you're gonna go
above.
above.
I'm meant to agree. It's just that's another one of those things where I feel like my opinion has reversed as time has gone on. I'm looking back because
But I'm looking at some of the ones under it, and I'm like, what? Anyway, I don't know how Masterpiece Society seems ranked too high to me.
it was because of the way that they were playing through the moral quandaries eventually.
Yeah, I've forgotten that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so at the time I was like, yeah, that's really compelling. They give these people the choice of leaving and whatever, and I remember like in Swerve that the overseer security character seemed like he was just going to be like the big
right, to be
antagonist.
heavy,
It was just,
and he was-
no, he's just I'm being logical. This is what's going to happen.
Yeah, I said it's better than Masterpiece Society, but you start going lower. There are ones below Masterpiece Society I think are better than this. So
Oh yeah, what's below that?
ethics.
Oh, Wesley, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I would put ethics above this. Wesley's not ethics.
Which one is ethics? That's.
Isn't it?
I know we played.
No, you're thinking of First Duty. They're all ethics is worse paralyzing contemplating suicide.
Oh yeah.
That's ethics?
Yeah. I'd go below ethics, but I'd go above the Masterpiece Society. So
See, that's what happens.
yeah, we're this season more than any other we've done of the 9 seasons
a
of
lot
Star
of-
Trek we're done. This is the one I feel least good about our rankings.
Interesting.
Well, there's a lot of them where either all of us or one of us has been like, oh, I think that one should be 4 higher anyway, so it doesn't matter.
I have a different top couple episodes for sure.
Yeah. What's below ethics? Isn't it another?
The
generic
Outcast.
title? Okay, that's not too generic. Yeah. Yep.
I'd go above The Outcast. I'd go below ethics.
Huh.
But I'd go above the Masterpiece Society, so you guys tell me where you think it belongs.
This is gonna be tough.
This episode, what it has going for it is I do think it's fun.
Mhm.
It's fun. That's all.
That's what's going for it.
The rest of it, I didn't.
Yeah, the logic doesn't add up, and yeah.
You know, Data had the one. Talking about his mortality was interesting. Or
Yes.
lack thereof. I enjoyed that. But other than that, and it was funny. It was fun.
Even that though, it just the internal logic seemed to keep flipping around.
Yeah.
As far as the mortality discussion.
So where do you want to go?
Where did we leave off? Going below Masterpiece Society?
He said above it
Oh,
first.
we were
I said
talking
above
about
that, but
that's
I'd go
right.
below ethics, which is under Masterpiece.
Yeah.
So
It just-
I would put ethics above Masterpiece, so that's my conundrum. But that's where I think it belongs, because I would put it above Outcast and stuff.
It's not going to go below
so.
Outcast, but I think I like that one a little more. Yeah.
Keith?
I know Outcast had its issues too.
I'm probably ready to go lower on it at this point.
You're both wanting to go below Outcast?
At least below Masterpiece Society. Yeah, Masterpiece Society, as you were saying.
And then
Are
ethics
we
and
already under
Outcast?
that?
Yeah,
So,
under that, it's ethics and Outcast.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess.
This
we're
is the
gonna go.
season where my rankings are way different than yours. That's why I feel so off on this. Below that is Cost of Living.
That's a perfect spot because that was also a fun episode, but
Was it?
not as much good stuff.
It was.
It was
I would
something.
definitely argue it
Actually,
belongs above that.
That's the boy. The boy.
The boy. Alexander.
Yeah.
Really?
She's going to have the terrible arranged marriage.
Yeah. I thought that was actually pretty deep for her. I mean, at the time I appreciated it because of the different depth we started seeing with what's on it.
Yeah.
And
There were the parts of the episode that were good were fun. There were a lot of the episode was not.
Okay.
Yeah. I go above that.
Well, since I was gonna be up a couple more spots, and Keith I think wants to go lower, I think we'll put it above Cost of Living. Keith, below that is Conundrum. Would you go lower than that?
you never can. It's always good.
That's the one with the fake first officer and everything's all.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely go above that.
What was?
That's where
what was the conundrum that they were?
they can't remember.
You can't remember anything, and they have the fake
One
first
guy
officer.
does remember
Yeah,
everything.
got it.
What do you think?
That's fine.
Okay. So it's ranked number 17 of
Wow.
26. But this was a really strong season, so
Yeah.
even 17 of 26, like, honestly, I'm looking down. We'll talk about more next week when we do
Yeah.
our season. But I'm saying there's only, like, 2 or 3 not great episodes this season, so... And this, for all of its flaws, I would watch it again.
Yeah,
I'm not hating on it. Next week, we're going to wrap up season 5. Then we have some great special episodes coming from you during our
Yeah.
typical 6-week hiatus that we always take. We're going to be watching Free Enterprise and see William Shatner do some rapping. We're going to be watching Buck Rogers in the 25th century.
Yeah.
It says 15th in the email.
Yeah,
I need to
it's
fix that. It's
25th.
25th. You're right. It's definitely the 15th. That would be a whole different show.
That's Connecticut Yankee and King Arthur's Court.
And we're going to watch Chaos on the Bridge about all of the drama that went on behind the scenes of The Next Generation.
Nice.
And how messy it
I'm
was.
excited about that.
So we'll get some insight. I actually just watched that like 2 months ago, so
Oh, yeah.
we talked about it.
Oh,
That's why I put it on the list.
Nice.
But
I guess
it's good. It's fun.
Yeah.
So, next, but then after that, we'll come back to New Time Zero Part 2, where Captain Picard and crew follow Data back to the late 1800s to get him back, only to find the suspected alien visitors are killing people of that time. I think we already knew that.
I think this is like Time After Time, the movie with H.G. Wells. Except they go back to the 1970s.
So next week, season wrap-up. Join us before we go on hiatus. Until then, live long.
and find value in your death.
To be continued.
It's All Been Done presents.
Who's got the time?
Oh.
Value in your death.
Live long and get tired of living.
Get busy living or get busy dying.
Too.